Tonight's meeting is about fiber cement siding, and I install fiber cement siding. Our crews are in-house. We do everything from the ground up, so I try to be on site to make things happen and make it done correctly. So tonight we'll just go through a few slides. And the first slide is what is fiber cement siding? It's a siding has been out since the 1980s to replace asbestos siding, and it's competitive with wood and aluminum siding. It's eco-friendly, and it's a good fire-resistant siding. It's made from cement with cellulose fibers. It has a fire resistance of Class 1 fire flame spread rating, which is the top. So you're kind of safe as far as if there is any fires, it's not going to burn. Fiber cement siding issues. The main issues, I think, is if we start from the bottom of this slide up, is the installation. 99% of the times, the fiber cement siding is installed incorrectly because of flashing details and clearance issues. It does crack, it does split. At the end of this couple slides, I'll show you a home that was built 8 years ago, and you'll see the damage from it being installed incorrectly and a defective product. It's expensive. We do have moisture problems with it. It soaks up moisture when it's out on the site, and it soaks up moisture as it's raining, and it actually freezes and does pop the surface if it's not sealed correctly. It's not energy efficient, and it still does require maintenance. The maintenance, it requires repainting every 7 to 10 years. It does fade, it chips, it peels, it cracks. It's necessary to make sure the caulking joints are always properly sealed. You can touch up some broken siding issues, chipped siding, and that all comes with maintaining it. As I said, it's not energy efficient. You can see here in this slide that it is probably one of the worst R values of any siding at 0.35 R value. So if you're looking to do this and gain some R value, it's not the siding that you really want, unless we do insulated panels or some insulated exterior walls. The moisture problems, they occur when the siding is even brought to the site. It needs to be stored correctly, and after it is installed, it needs to be properly sealed. When you seal any ends that are cut or any cuts, it does help from the shrinkage and moisture issues when you're installing it. Most contractors are not doing this. You'll see it in some slides later, but it definitely needs, every cut needs to be sealed, and every joint that we do have as a vertical joint needs to be caulked correctly. We have to pay very close attention to the 2-inch gap clearances, the 1/4-inch gaps over any horizontal window head or door head. Ways to reduce moisture problems is we need to do different types of installation systems. Later, I'm going to show you a system that we use from MTI products that allows the siding to be vented and installed correctly. And I will go over those techniques with you when we get to that slide. We definitely need flashings over the heads of windows, doors, trim boards, any horizontal surfaces. And like I said before, we also need to paint the edges that are cut. The siding does crack and split. There is a lot of defective materials out there. Certainteed had a product that was really bad. It shrinks like crazy, and their installation guide allowed face nailing and blind nailing. And as you'll see later, there will be descriptions of a house that's 8 to 10 years old, and it had to be completely resided because of the defective material. The siding gets nailed with a pneumatic nail gun. I use a Hitachi nail gun. Every time we start a job, we adjust the pressure on the air guns, and on the guns themselves allow the nail to be set perfectly. It can't be overshot into the fiber cement siding, and it can't be undershot, leaving the heads protruding out. So it's very important that the nail guns, if you're using them, that they're nailing the nails flush with the surface. The handling of the siding comes in 2 thicknesses. With the Hardy siding, it's they have a 5/16 and then they have a 5/8. We like to use the thicker siding. The thinner siding comes in 12-foot lengths, and it's very kind of hard to work with. So 2 guys usually handle each piece of siding. So that's where the cracking could be, or splitting, or breaking in pieces. The house settling or moving, I don't really think that's a big issue with this product. I think if you build the house properly, it shouldn't settle. So hopefully that's not one of our issues. There is a line on the siding at the top edge that gives you the correct distance from the top edge to place the nails. So if you go too high to that edge, it's going to split and be damaged. Common installation defects. Mostly it's keeping the siding away from the roof surfaces, the decks, the driveways, the steps, hard surfaces, 2 inches. The siding should be kept at least 6 inches above a finished grade. Gutters should be installed 1 inch away from an adjoining wall, and kick-out flashings should be installed. the siding should be kept a 1/4 inch above any horizontal window head, door head, or base trim moldings to allow that water to drain. This is the area that gets caulked all the time. When you guys are out there inspecting these houses with fiber cement siding, I guarantee you 99% of the time you see the window heads caulked, any horizontal surface caulked and sealed. And that shouldn't be that way. It should be open to let the water drain from behind it. It is allowed to be in this slide. It says it can be blind nailed or face nailed. Hardy siding, and that's just one brand, does allow the siding to be installed both ways. It can be installed face nailed and blind nailed. Usually when it's face nailed, it's a replacement or a repair that you'll see. Most people are blind nailing this. You have to use the right size nails. There are 2 to 2.5 inches, and they should be coated or stainless steel. Okay, common errors in installation. First off, improper storage. Usually that's the lumberyard bringing it out to the site, and that's the same day that the guy is going to grade rough grade the lot, and they're pushing dirt and earth up against your pile of siding, and it's just sitting there soaking up water. All the siding should be stored in a dry place, like in a garage or wherever we can keep it out of the weather. The incorrect butt joints, it's what they're saying there is the butt joints should all be sealed when cut, and there should be a slip flashing behind each butt joint. That's another inspection issue you'll see. If you look at the fiber cement siding, you really have to look to see if there's flashing behind the butt joints. 99% of the time, you're not going to have that butt joint being flashed. That is a common technique that every carpenter in the world should know, whether it's fiber cement siding or wood siding or any panels. Anytime we have a butt joint, there should be flashing installed behind it. Like we said before, nailing too high or too low, the clearance issues, and the ugly caulking. The fiber cement siding requires the vertical joints to be caulked. You're to allow an 1/8 inch gap between the siding and the vertical trim to allow a good caulk bead to be installed and allow it to flex. The hardy siding required an OSI quad caulk that cannot be tooled. So when the caulking is installed, it should not be tooled or flattened out with a finger. If you see that, it wasn't installed correctly. It should be just a smooth caulking bead, and no tooling is allowed with that.
What about caulking the butt joints, Nick?
No, we don't do that. We don't want to trap any moisture behind that. If it's properly flashed behind there, if there's that slip flashing, it should be installed like that and no caulking. The storage, go ahead.
Sorry, Nick. Can the flashing be installed after the fact, after it's installed, after the siding is installed?
No, it shouldn't be. You'll never get it to go up. If we have that 1.25 lap or 2-inch lap, you'll never be able to get that flashing up as high as the actual piece of siding. People try it all the time. You can try to tap a piece up there, but what we like to use metal flashing at all of our joints. That doesn't have to be metal flashing. It can be felt paper. It can be Tyvek. Could be anything really. But we like to use metal flashing behind there. And you'll see a million times. I know here in Washington, D.C., that's one of the biggest issues. They'll put the siding in and they do not have flashing at the butt joints. And as you'll see in the next couple of slides, some of the photos, even though the siding has shrunk and cracked, it wouldn't have affected the siding or the exterior of the building as much as it did without the flashing installed. So I'll show you that in a little bit.
Can you put the caulking over the butt joints if the flashing wasn't installed originally, like as a repair or something?
No, it's not recommended to do that. It's recommended to try to get that piece of flashing up in there.
Do you know if there's a size recommendation for the butt joints? The size of the joint?
6 inches.
The gap between two butt joints?
We want those tight.
Tight? Moderately tight? Okay.
As tight as we can get them. And then
Gotcha.
on the trim boards, vertical trim boards, or your window trim, you would leave that 1/8 gap. But the butt joint would be tight.
One of the questions was, do you know if there was a year that they started requiring the butt joints to be flashed?
You know, that's a good question. Like I said, I started building houses or being a carpenter in 1976. And anytime that you even put wood siding up or any type of siding, that was always a requirement as far as how we were taught in our apprenticeship. So I think that's just a common practice. I don't think there was any requirement that they, it just should have been done. That's something that should have been done, regardless of what siding it is.
Is there a requirement for a minimum number of rows or courses between vertically aligned butt joints?
The butt joint should be installed on studs. The studs, on that's where they should be nailed on. They do allow siding, cement siding, to be nailed onto sheathing that's thicker than 7/16 of an inch anywhere in the field, which I don't recommend that. So if you wanted to stagger every 16 inches, you could.
Gotcha. And you said Tyvek was an acceptable flashing material for the butt joints, right?
Yeah, I probably wouldn't use that. I like this product called Blue Skin. If I was going to use something, I would use something like that. But like I said, I'd like to use aluminum flashing.
Nice. Continue.
Okay, so the butt joints, the siding does come in 12-foot lengths. So it does have to be joined in longer walls. The board should be touching each other, no gap. Joint flashing or slip sheet flashing should be installed behind each joint. You can get it color matched. You can try to do that. And butt joints should land on a stud. I don't recommend that it not be joined in the field, even though the substrate is thicker. I just think that's asking for trouble. Not enough fasteners. Um, it should be nailed to the studs, as I was saying. They do have a line on the top of the siding that gives you the correct distance down from the top. And like I said, it should be nailed in every stud that you can get to. I mean, your window jacks, king studs, that they could be nailed and fastened to those. The high nailing, um, like I said, there is a line on most siding that shows you where to put the nail. It's usually an inch down or an inch and a quarter down. And if it's too high, the bottoms of the siding will kick out. And if it's too low, you're going to see it from, it's going to be an exposed fastener because your next layer is not going to cover that. This is a problem because a lot of guys are really flying through this siding and putting more nails. They're almost nailing it. You know, anytime you have a carpenter using a nail gun, they're going to use it like they're installing an asphalt shingle roof, and they just go too fast. You just have to slow down and install it correctly and put the nails exactly where they should be. The clearances, again, 2-inch minimum gap from all hard surfaces, decks, roof lines, 8 inches, 6 to 8 inches from any soft surfaces like grass or dirt. If it is installed very close to the hard surfaces, you will see that it will suck up moisture. And here in the Northeast, we do get freezing temperatures. The face of the siding will pop. It'll just expand and pop off. It'll bubble up and pop off. So that's where you're going to see, if you inspectors go out and look at the hardy siding, you'll check it out along the roof edges, and you'll see a lot of damage on the face of that. And it's because the water's just soaking it. It's not sealed. It's too close. The ugly caulking. I built a house that had mitered corners on the exterior. The architect didn't want to see corner trim boards. We had to leave that 1/8 inch gap. According to Hardy Siding, we had to leave the gap. They came to look at this project that I did, and they brought 4 guys, and we had to miter our corners, and it was kind of hard to do, but we did it. It was a compound miter, and we had to leave the 1/8 inch gap between those 2 pieces of siding, and then use the OSI caulk, which couldn't be tooled, and it just looked horrible. So the architect still wanted that look without the corner board. So I wouldn't recommend that, and I don't think the Hardy guys really like that installation. They would rather see corner boards. And then the nails should be hot dip galvanized. There was a company that we used to call Maze Nails. They actually are supplying nails for hardy siding, for any siding actually. I like to use stainless steel. My homes are a little bit different. The cost is really no object, so we just try to do the right thing. But if you can do that, you should definitely have the use of the best, which would be stainless steel. Face nailing through smooth trim. On the projects that I've done with fiber cement siding, I like to use the fiber cement trim, the 5/4 boards. I just like to keep the whole system exactly the same because of it can be moving in the same way. Some contractors are using a combination of fiber cement siding with PVC trim. I just think that if I'm using this product and I want to get it warranted, I'm just going to use every bit of their material, and that way we won't have problems. There is 2 ways to install this trim. You can face nail through the fiber cement trim, and then you can also use a aluminum tab. And Hardy does supply, if you ask, they can supply aluminum tabs that you basically staple with a pneumatic stapler from the back side of the wood trim or the fiber cement trim. You staple tabs that extend out past the actual boards, and then you nail those tabs to your substrate, which is basically blind nailing and fastening the trim to the wall. It's kind of difficult because the fiber cement trim is fluted, and if you need a certain size, you really have to cut in between the flutes to get a smooth edge on your exterior side. So the house that I did in Lovettsville, we had to actually have 1.5-inch trim because it was more contemporary, and Hardy doesn't make anything that small, and we had to do this system with the aluminum tabs, and it was kind of difficult, but we got through it. Water resistant barriers. Everybody kind of throughout the country loves DuPont Tyvek house wrap. One of the things that I would recommend if you guys are doing pre-drywall inspections or total inspections of new built homes is that you look at the house wrap and make sure it's installed correctly. You can go to DuPont Tyvek and get an installation guide. Most house wraps are going to require the house wrap to be installed with cap nails. They want that so that the nails are a little bit sealed and that the Tyvek holds on the house properly. Staples, believe it or not, are not really the way to install Tyvek house wrap. So that's something that when you guys go out to inspect, you should really look at that, and then look how it's installed and make sure that it's overlapped correctly and taped properly and folded in at the windows and doors, and have the windows and doors installed correctly with the flanges tucked under at the heads and properly taped and sealed. Also, Tyvek and a lot of house wraps, and even the blueskin that I'm going to show you on the next slide, they also have a period of time that it starts breaking down after it's exposed to the sun for 120 days or 150 days. So it takes me 2 years to build a house, and we don't put the house wrap on right away. We put it on right before we're going to do the siding. But if you come on to a situation where it's a large home or somebody's really taking their time, you should ask about how long that tieback has been exposed, because there is a time limit on that.
Hey, Nick,
Yeah.
would that somebody asked a question if problematic UV material should be used as the flashing at the butt joints, because if they're installed in the summer and they shrink in the winter, the flashing may be exposed and be damaged by the UV rays. Is
Yeah,
that
I
something?
wouldn't. Yeah, like I said, I would still. My preference to that butt joint would be to use metal,
Gotcha.
aluminum. Yeah. This is the product that I like to use on my homes. It's a peel and stick product, and when you install nails or anything into it, it kind of seals itself, seals penetrations. We've been using it for the last couple of years, and it's been really a good product. But there again, this product can only be exposed, I think this one's 150 days. So this is the one that I kind of like, because if you do put a hole through it, like you're going to do as when you install your siding or anything else, window trim, door trim, anything, as you puncture that, it seals itself. And then this is the zip wall system. I don't use zip wall. I don't use an OSB product on any of my homes. I use 5-ply fir on my plywood, on my wall sheathing. I use 7-ply fir on my floors and roof sheathing. So this product here is pretty good. I mean, I just don't use OSB products on my homes, but the more I learn about this, it's really a good system. As long as the tape that is applied to the joints in the corners, as long as that tape is properly installed and rolled. They claim that any of the nails that are in the field that are being nailed to the wood framing members inside are sealing themselves. I've been on jobs where I've seen the nails overdriven, and I just, for some reason, I just can't believe that. But there are ways that the zip wall system, if I was going to install it, I would go back and flash each nail that was penetrating the wood surface, because they have a liquid applied membrane that you can properly seal that if you're really concerned. And they claim it's the best. There's a lot of testing that has been done on the zip wall system, and well, it looks pretty good. In theory, it looks great. I don't know if there's any other builders out there, but I just haven't used it. And it's comparable in price to if you would have to do like I do, install plywood and then have to go back and reinstall a weatherproof barrier like the Blueskin that I do. It's probably way less cheaper to use the zip wall system, but I'm just not an OSB guy. So this is a new home. I just wanted to show you guys this particular builder. I did this inspection about a month ago, and I looked at the way they had installed the house wrap. And what they did, it looks like they cut the house wrap around the windows. It must have put the windows in first and then put the house wrap, and they just cut the house wrap around the flanges of the windows. So I took this picture. I have a whole bunch of them, but I just wanted to show a few of these pictures, and that's kind of what this looked like. Um, and there's a great picture of improperly installed house wrap. So um, I wrote the inspection report, and I really wanted to look into how this Kingspan house wrap was supposed to be installed, and it was nothing like this. So when I went back the next day and I asked the superintendent, you know, what, why are you doing this? Or, what's the reasoning? This is all wrong, and it's just going to leak like crazy. And this was down on a beach home in Delaware where they get horizontal rains. And the superintendent, younger guy, had said, "Well, that's how we do it." And I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. So I handed him over a copy of the installation guide, and it was nothing like this. So this particular client had to have it all taken off and had the windows pulled out, and ended up hiring somebody to install the weatherproof barrier correctly.
So, Nick, what are you, some kind of troublemaker or something?
Well, I just wanted to make sure that the client that I was inspecting the house for was getting what he paid for. And if you can tell me that this slide right here is installed correctly, um, you know, would you buy a house like that? I don't know. Maybe
That's
some people would. I
that's
don't
why
know.
that's why we get them inspected.
Yeah, and it was, it was unfortunate, but they had to take all the windows and doors out and do it correctly. Um, the big wigs from that corporation had a long talk with me about that. So anyhow, but that's the kind of things that you're looking at, and what they tried to do is go back and just put tape around everything. That's not going to work. So uh, that was that, and that's not right. That's way wrong. So when you guys are out inspecting things, you should definitely comment on just simple house wrap installation. It does matter. So this is a slide that is Hardy's general requirements, and it's a pretty good slide. It's like something maybe that you could print out and maybe hand to your clients or whatever. I try to explain when I'm inspecting houses all of the clearances and the reason why things are installed with the 1/4 inch gaps and the 2 inch gaps and everything like that with the kick out flashings. So this is kind of a good little um, handout to have just to keep in your truck or something. And if you see it, you can obviously refer to it and mark things up with that. Okay, this is the system that I use. It's called MTI Drive. If you guys are really into it and you want to really check this out, guys and girls, it's mtidrive.com, Masonry Technology Incorporated. We use this corrugated last strip, and we use it down on the bottoms. We use the blue skin here. This comes with a little screen, a bug screen you can get. And there's a vented metal edge at the bottom. This stuff You can get 1/8 inch, 3/16, or 3/8 thick, whatever you want. 1/8 inch really works. We just want to get some airflow through here. So this product, it came out years ago, and we tried it, and I just think it's the best thing in the world. And I'll show you the next slide. What I like about this slide, and this is something that people never think about. If you look at this channel right here, there's a moisture diverter right there. So if you put that in and you have it leaning or sloping towards one end, anything that's above the head of the window hits that, drips down, and then drips down through our system. So if it's not installed, then our water is coming somewhere in here, and we don't really. Does it actually drain? You know, we obviously use that 1/4 inch gap right there, but this piece here is called a feather strip. So if we don't have any of this lath and this air gap, that's actually creating a place for moisture to sit. The same with an area here. A lot of these types of systems, I'll put out like a stucco wrap by, I think Tyvek makes one. When you go to nail through that, it's compressible, so it actually lets the head of that piece of siding tight to that piece of waterproof barrier, and it doesn't allow water to drain down through it. So this is what we've been doing, and it's worked so well that I think I have like 3 architects here in Washington, D.C. starting to think about using this in their details. But it's a really good detail, and it works really well. So this is the house that's 8 or 9 years old. I think it was 8 years old when I inspected just the exterior of the house. The guy called me and said, you know, I would like to paint my house, but I see all these cracking issues, and I don't know what to do about it. And can you come and inspect this? This house is in Delaware, so it looks pretty nice. Big house, big beach house, and you can't really see it from this picture, but all this siding is just really bad everywhere. All the details were totally wrong, but it was a defective siding. This was the CertainTeed fiber cement siding. It was defective. It was a defective product, and they admitted it was defective. But this is what it looked like. These joints were actually tight at one time, and now every joint looks like that. And these face nails were allowed on the installation guide at the time this house was built. But see that this issue, if we had a piece of flashing behind there that's 6 inches and goes the whole way up behind this siding, it really wouldn't matter what the siding did. If it broke or cracked or chipped, they could have painted it, they could have done anything, and it wouldn't have affected the inside of this house, the wood sheeting of this house. But this house, that's how loose the siding was. And it didn't have any butt joint flashing in there. So you can see they had tried to fix pieces, no flashings, not nailed on studs, just nailed wherever they wanted to. All these cracks here, it's too close to the roof surface, but these appear to be on 16-inch centers, but the gaps, there's no flashings in any of these places. So then they tried to fix it with putting a few pin nails in this area, and it was so loose, it was unbelievable. And for the house being 8 years old, and it was really blue at one time, look how faded it is, but you can see how close to the roof surface, so any water coming down here is going to soak up into these panels. And I don't know if that's just paint that's faded, or if it's the face of that siding. This is a detail that they had in almost every head. You can see the window. They actually had a piece of head flashing there. They didn't turn it down over, but this was creating an issue at every window. When they ended up taking the siding off of this particular house, they had to replace every rim joist, every sill plate, all the insulation, every bit of the sheathing, and then they had to have a mold company come out. It cost this guy $120,000 to have the siding repaired on his house. And here again, we see a lot of this where there's windows here, and there's flashing, or not flashing, but a flange here. But this area right here, I would still put a aluminum head flashing on that window and then allow that 1/4 inch gap. But you'll see this a lot. This is an area where water's coming down, it's getting behind this siding, and it's just, this whole corner is just deteriorated. And you can see there's no little kick out here. This is too close to the roof surface. This is kind of a messed up house, actually, right here. This corner is terrible. You can see that they also sealed that, even though they had flashing.
You got to wonder what the architect was smoking that day.
Well, you'll see it on the next photo, I think. This is another, like, just bad detail, really bad detail. But, you know, you have to keep and maintain that 2-inch gap here, and you should allow this so that water can get down through there. A lot of times we'll leave that 2-inch gap, but then we'll put a counter flashing down so it looks nice and neat. And you can see that this is deteriorating. And you have like a concrete pad, and it's just poured right up against that siding. So that's not correct. And this siding was sealed, even though this house had this is like a little water table over top of a bandboard trim. All they had to do was put a flashing over this and allow this to be up a 1/4 inch, but they didn't do it. And this house here also didn't have any flashing at any butt joints. And you can see there's some damaged siding there, but it's just too close. This is how thick, how wide this siding actually shrunk on this building. And you can see that when they took the siding off of this house, it was actually like wet toilet paper, the Tyvek. All this was like, this vertical crack was here, but back a few slides ago, we saw that at every head it was just pouring water in this area. And that's how far that that spread. Even though it didn't crack at these areas, it just still spread. And then this is more of what we'll see. I see it a lot in houses at down in DC area. You can see the gaps, large gaps underneath each row of siding. That siding is now too tall up there, and it's caulked, and it shouldn't be. There's no head flashing here, no 1/4 inch area right there. Just wrong. Here again, this is very close to the roof surface. It's cracked here. This was in between the 2 windows on this particular house, and you can just see how the siding is just blistering. So that's all moisture behind there. This has got it has the flashing, but there's no 1/4 inch gap, and then there's no what we call a feather strip behind this to allow that siding to be tilted out a little bit from the side, from the bottom of the sill plate. So that's done incorrectly, and it's just holding water. If water gets behind there, it's just going to sit there and rot. These are some unpainted joints, and that siding, they obviously tried to pin nails at each joint, but there's no butt joint flashing behind there either. So, in conclusion, the problems with the siding, I think it's a good product. I just think that people need to be more educated on how to install it and do the right thing with the right flashings. But we have a problem with production home builders. They're not gonna go the extra step. They're just gonna get by with it as much as they can to install this the way they want to, and it's unfortunate. It's very unfortunate. So when you guys are out there, you have to look at these things, and whether it's a production home or a $10 million home, the siding should be installed per the manufacturer's specifications. And if you want to, you should go to this website and download this practice guide manual. It's really helpful. It's helpful if you're a builder. It's even helpful more helpful if you're an inspector. I want to go back to this detail. This detail shows that little canted strip. We call it a feather strip. With this system, that can be installed, a solid piece going across. With the other systems, without the vented weave screed there, it can't be installed completely solid. So you just have to take a look when you guys are inspecting. That's a good area to look at right there. Okay.
Hey Nick.
Yeah.
Did you mention the 2 different installations, or the 2 different types of siding that are made depending on the regions? There's the north and the south, right?
There is. I had mentioned a product that was called to you a couple days ago. There's a product that's called Nishiha. It's a foreign product that I think is probably one of the best fiber cement products out there, and it's not allowed north of North Carolina because of the freezing issues. So, yeah, there is different issues as you go south. It's probably a better product as you go north. If it gets wet and swells and freezes and pops, that's probably not the best thing. I think it may be a better product in the southern warmer climates.